Okay, good morning. We'll try to bring things to order so we can get started here today. We have some, I understand, some presentations left before we get into the add-delete list.
Yes, sir.
So I will turn it over to the finance director and she can lead us on.
Yes, sir. The first department presentation that we have, it's not really a presentation, so to speak. Clerk of Superior Court Shasta Glover was here at last week's budget review session. Unfortunately, just due to the conversation and the topics at hand, she was not able to make the request that she intended to make, which was to reclassify two of her grade 14 positions, a grade 14A to grade 14C. These are supervisors within the Clerk of Superior Court's office, and it's budget neutral because what she'll do to offset these reclassifications is reduce the amount of part-time wages she has in her existing budget. So the request from the Clerk of Superior Court is to reclassify two senior deputy clerk positions, which are currently G14As to G14Cs, and the cost of the reclassifications is $4,168. Of course, she's here if you'd like to hear from her, but that is the request at hand.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I guess I was going to ask the question. I think on the add and delete list, that 1.5 person was put on for deletion.
Yeah, on the delete list, there were requests by Councilor Allen, it's number 16 on the list, to delete two new deputy clerk positions, and then Councilor Woodson, number 17 on the add delete list, was adding one new deputy clerk. These are all full-time positions, but what the clerk is requesting is a reclassification of two existing positions.
Okay, I'm just wondering if any of this is going to have an impact on the person, the part-time person that's doing the scanning.
I don't believe so.
Well, and so she's here, and what she, again, wants to do is move that $4,000 from her wages to this reclass and make it budget neutral. And then, of course, she will control the part-time, because she's got a person up to 29 hours right now, and she'll control the part-time employee to keep that part-time wage intact.
And I just confirmed with the clerk that it's not the part-time wages that we're referring to are not the people doing the scanning. So
okay, I just want to make sure nothing interfered with that.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's budget neutral.
Yes, it's budget neutral. So we would need someone from council to put it on the add delete list because it's not currently in the budget. Okay. So that's you, Councilor Woodson, adding the budget neutral request of the Clerk of Superior Court, which is again to reclassify two senior deputy clerks, G14A to G14C. And the cost is $4,168, and that amount will be taken from the clerk's part-time wages budget. Okay.
Councilor Thomas.
Ms. Alexander, I'm sorry if you mentioned this and I missed it. Does this impact at all the request from the Superior Court judges?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Because at one time they were sort of connected, right?
No.
Because we were going to move the function from the Superior Court judges to the Superior Court clerk's office, right?
Well, these part-time positions are existing positions within the clerk's office, even without the redistribution of the work.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that exactly what we are doing at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not connected at all.
Quite frankly, I'm not clear on what we're doing.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with that. It's not connected at all
Okay,
with
so
the judges.
we are merely requesting at this point a reclassification of current employee positions.
Yes.
Okay. I think I got it. Thank you.
All right. So I got Council Woodson down as putting that on the list. So the next item on the agenda is actually the Finance Department. It's kind of odd being up here actually making a request to council, but there are two requests that I'd actually like to discuss with council about today. The first one is after much evaluation of the staffing in the Finance Department, I'm in desperate need of a full-time administrative position. Currently, the department's only administrative person is a part-time employee, but it really needs to be a full-time position to effectively perform the job responsibilities associated with it. Just due to previous budget cuts, some of the duties of this position have sort of transferred or been absorbed by other positions within the department. And so since then, I've had to shift some of the administrative responsibilities, like I said, to other employees, myself included. And it's just causing some consternation in the department. Just adding on, we're a very lean staff. You know, as the internal auditor mentioned when he conducted his audit a couple of years ago, you know, we have a lot of people that are up for retirement very soon, and I just need some stability and some relief in the department. You know, properly training new employees. It's a time-consuming effort, particularly in the Finance Department, because we handle the money. You know, these are some very important tasks that we're responsible for. So we want to make sure that we always have the right people in place to perform these functions. But just with the part-time person, it's difficult to retain a person with the position being part-time. And so my request is for council to fund a full-time administrative coordinator position within the Finance Department. This has been sent up to CSU. CSU has determined that the appropriate grade for this position, based on the job duties that were provided, is a grade 14. And the cost to make this a full-time position is $22,010.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may interject, of course, I want to speak about the Finance Department and then the HR Department. I don't have to tell you those are two critical departments to the success of this organization, CCG. We have some 3,000 plus employees and a budget, obviously, of $274 million with all the travel going on and tracking and monitoring and departments going over budget and tracking and doing all the things that they do. For an organization that's doing all of that, like finance, and they do not have a full-time secretary, administrative coordinator, she's doing it. And professional staff is doing it. They did at one time years ago when we were going through the budget situations and everybody had to do some cuts. They cut the secretary because that's the best they could do. They couldn't do anything else in the organization in terms of cuts. And our HR department did the same thing. They don't have a secretary. Now, finance has a part-time secretary, as she's indicated, and she needs a full-time administrative coordinator. You know, I don't know how she gets it done. And I've said to the mayor and others, I mean, getting email at 3:30 in the morning and 2:30 and 1:30. I know I've said it to you, Mayor Pro Tem Pugh, about her, because she's doing it all herself. And she needs an administrative coordinator, a secretary that's full-time and not part-time, if we are going to make sure that we are good stewards of the $274 million and all of the things that are little but big things like track and travel and doing all the things that they do. She needs a full-time secretary and not a part-time. And so I do support that request.
The Mayor Pro Tem made a request to add, but I guess my question, did you review this before the budget? I mean, you saw no reason to put that into the budget on the front end?
Well, it was not budget neutral, and that's why I didn't get into the budget. And I told the mayor, I mean, it's not budget neutral, but we have got to get her some help. So I've got to ask council, she's got to ask council for the help that she needs if she is going, I mean, this is our money.
Is this expanding a position that's there or creating a new one?
No, it's a part-time position right now. And in order to make that part-time position full-time, she needs $22,000 to give her the help she needs. And that's what she's asking for. And I'm talking about throughout the whole department. You don't have there are no secretaries.
No administrative person.
No. And that's just, in your finance department, it doesn't make sense.
Sure.
And we probably should never have allowed them to cut that position when we did, but we had to because they couldn't cut anywhere else. So that's the request.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
So that's actually the first item. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that. But the second request that I have is related to the FY18 audit contract. There is a need for an additional $5,000.
And Mr. Chairman, I did mention that this morning when Malden and Jenkins was here. And I mentioned to Councilor Thomas that she asked a question when Albright Fortenberry got the contract in 2013, the renewed contract, and we're in 2018. Now, of course, the difference that we need on this unexpected thing that came to us with the external auditor is $5,000 because we didn't learn until after the budget was submitted, of course, you know.
That's correct.
And so we're asking for $5,000 for that, for next year. We're able to cover it for this year. But as we go into the next budget year, we need the $5,000.
That's correct.
And when you say this year, you mean ending June 30th, 18?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's not something that there would be a contingency to cover?
Well, we could.
I guess we could. We could.
But
do
I still need to reduce contingency.
We'll
I still
reduce,
need councils to put it on the list.
So we could make it budget neutral by taking it from contingency and reducing contingency by $5,000, but we need you to vote because we know we're going to have to pay them.
Okay.
So it would be budget neutral.
The Mayor Pro Tem has requested that it be on, so
Yes.
Okay.
we'll get that one way or the other. Obviously, it's got to be paid, sure.
And that is it as far as my presentation. Next department on the agenda is the Human Resources Director, Retha Hollowell.
Good morning, Council. Yes, I do have a request for an additional staff person that was not placed in the budget because, again, it is not budget neutral. But my request is similar to the Finance Director for an administrative assistant for the Human Resources Department. This position did exist at one time in the department. However, due to departmental reorganization, the economic downturn with the economy, the position was deleted from the budget. The position is severely needed in the department because of the increasing workload, increasing expectations of the Human Resources Department in terms of the quality of work that is expected from the department. The scope of work in terms of what we do in human resources, we are not simply just processing folks in and out. What we do in HR, as you all see when we present here, is so much more complex than that now. And it will allow for us to be more proactive than reacting, is what we tend to do so often, is reacting to situations when we really need to be more proactive. We want to be able to improve our response time to our customers. You're our customers. Every employee of this government, the 3,000 employees, they are our customers, and we want to be able to be reactive and responsive to them in a timely manner. When someone calls the HR department, they are not expecting somebody to call them back in 3 days. They really want a response that day. But if we are bombarded with so many other things, we're oftentimes not able to do that. Our department is about 16 strong. 16 employees strong, serving 3,000 employees. And I say 16 because we have to include the risk management. That's 3 employees there. And then our training department, which are not doing core HR work, although the work that they're doing is needed. National industry standards suggest that there should be 1 HR professional person for every 100 employees. This would suggest that we need at least 25 employees in HR, and I just mentioned we have 16 in the department. This would allow us also to spend more time on strategic planning, research and analysis, the kinds of things that you all expect us to do, the things that you think are common and ordinary for an HR department, and I agree that they should be expected. But when we're down in the trenches doing a lot of the administrative things that take away from that research analysis, those kinds of strategic planning, we don't have as much time to spend on those. HR has expanded, as I mentioned before, in its scope. There are a number of boards and committees that were not under our umbrella, but are under our umbrella now. We're used to being the administrative arm for the pension board. The pension board is, the Personnel Review Board has been around for a long time, so we're used to being the administrative arm and support for that. But about a year or 2 ago, we brought on and you voted for a deferred compensation board. There's an administrative piece to managing and making sure that everything that's done for that board is done. That's the Deferred Compensation Board. That's the 457 Supplemental Retirement Fund. Then there's the Retiree Benefit Committee that we didn't used to have. HR is responsible for that. There's the Employee Benefits Committee that we didn't have before, that HR is responsible for. There's the Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities that HR didn't have before, but now we're responsible for. So those are, they're boards, and there's an expectation that we manage and do the administrative things that are needed for those boards, you know, making sure they have the meetings, making sure that they have what they need, and those sorts of things. Then those are whenever some major federal or state legislation comes along that impacts personnel, HR has to respond to that. You all are familiar with the Affordable Care Act that was passed in 2010. We're still working through that. You know, anything that comes from the Department of Labor, we're responsible for making sure that that happens, that it's enacted in our department, enacted throughout the city, those sorts of things. So we're continuously working on those. One of the things that we own, that you agreed to on board, which was absolutely wonderful, in 2013 was a health and wellness center. There's a tremendous piece that goes along with making sure that the health and wellness center gets what it needs. There's ongoing monitoring and evaluation, collaboration with a vendor there for the Health and Wellness Center, added programs and initiatives that we would like to do, time permitting, with the Health and Wellness Center, increasing participation at the Health and Wellness Center, promoting the Health and Wellness Center to the employees, to the participants there. Then there's strategic planning that needs to go into what we're doing and making sure that we're getting our ROI, our return on investment, with the Health and Wellness Center, forecasting trends, what next, what should we be thinking about next, what should we be doing next, you know, those sorts of, it takes time to do those sorts of things. And then, as I talked about these boards and committees, then there are vendor relations that we have to make sure that we're managing. We have a benefit consultant, Shaw Hankins. there's a lot of work that we have to do with Shaw Hankins to make sure that they are addressing our needs. We're monitoring, we're evaluating. Our pharmacy benefit manager, we're working with them, collaborating with them, making sure that they are doing what we expect them to be doing. We're getting our return on investment with them. Then we're working with our supplemental benefit consultants, AFLAC and the like, Colonial. Then the Health and Wellness Center has a manager itself, CARE ATC, so we're constantly working with them, collaborating with them. Our compensation consultants, UGA, CSU, there's a lot of work building relationships with them, making sure that they are doing what we expect them to do so that you are the citizens, the council, the city is getting that return on investment. Our pension administration, our NeoGov, our job application management system. There's a relationship that has to be done there. There's evaluation, negotiation, our physicals and our drug screens that we do for all our employees, working with the contracted vendor, which is occupational medicine at this time. When you have a positive drug screen, post-accident testing, all those sorts of things, you're working with the vendor. And all these vendors that I mentioned, you know, there are contract renewals with them that we've got to make sure that we're monitoring the contract when the contract needs to be renewed. There's planning, there's an RFP, there's coordination, there's research, all of these kinds of things that will go with these vendor relations. And then there's the legal end of what we do in HR, constantly working with our city attorney. You know, I tell Lucy, I'm going to just move up there and get an office next to her because we work so closely with them. The number of open records requests that we get are numerous and they're continuous. The requests for production of documents, those sorts of things, civil action, lawsuits, it's a constant. And what we don't want to do is drop the ball and have something fall through the cracks that we can't do or haven't done because we don't have the manpower to be able to do it. One of the things that we also took on was notary services. When this building was built, it moved the city service center out here, which used to be at the government center. So what wasn't provided at the government center any longer, or wasn't provided as much, was notary services. So that's something that Human Resources took on to do additional notary services for the courts and those sorts of things. So we do over 100 notaries for citizens that come in and employees that come in on a regular basis. Over a month, we're processing. So somebody's got to do that. That takes time to do it. The person's got to look at the notary, see if it's something that they can notarize, that they're comfortable with notarizing. So it takes the time for us to do that. So this request that I'm making for an administrative assistant, that would be for the entire department. The major duties and responsibilities, of course, is going to be to help manage that additional volume of work, paperwork that we have received that we're processing, the records management that I mentioned to you, research, helping us respond to managers, employees, citizens, customers, helping me manage the multiple appointments, calendar appointments and meetings that I have, preparing presentations for council and other reports, agendas, and those sorts of things. So that is my request.
What type of personnel, what grade, what type of budget impact are you looking at?
An administrative assistant is typically a grade 12, and the cost for a grade 12 is $43,089 annually. That's the position and benefits, $43,089. Yes, that includes benefits.
And so just to be clear, in your entire department, you don't have an administrative assistant or secretary?
No.
In the entire department?
That's correct.
Well, but then again, I have to ask the question, if there's such a critical need there, why is it not budgeted? Because it puts us in the position of having to with 63 days to have to create new positions out of the fund balance. So it puts us in a very difficult spot.
Yeah, no, it puts any decision maker in a very difficult spot. I would say this, that as I've said before, if it's required by law, if it's critical to the operation of the office, meaning that they would cease functioning or stop a critical service, and if it's budget neutral. These were not budget neutral, and I think at some point, I mean, there's not a department head that couldn't come up here and make a pretty critical need. And so at some point, you're just picking the ones that I personally feel are, most worthy. And I really think that's a legislative decision. I don't dispute anything that was said. I think that that these two offices are understaffed. I think we have other offices that are understaffed, and at some point, we need to understand understaffed offices will make mistakes. They will not be efficient. And so, but you've got several of those to choose from, and these are two prime examples.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Allen?
I wanted to ask about the grade class 12, I think you said, and 43,000. Is that grade N? Is that starting in grade 12N?
A, that's the A step, if I'm understanding your question.
Okay, so
That's an entry level.
so 12A is 31,000. You're adding in benefits, gets it up to 41.
Right,
Is that
right.
what you're saying?
That would be the
Okay.
total cost for the position, yes.
I have the same concerns that Councilor Baker does. If it's not, if you didn't put it in the budget and you didn't find the funding, then you come to us and want us to find the funding. I mean, what?
No, I don't want you to find the funding necessarily. As you can see on the add-delete list, there are a lot of things on here that aren't necessarily critical to the day-to-day functioning of the office, and that they would cease operations. They've been operating for, I guess, now 3 years in this fashion. It puts stress on them. It certainly will result in difficulty maintaining employees who get other offers. It will result in mistakes and so forth. But I won't read them out loud because it's not my objective to embarrass, but there's plenty of things on here that council's put on here for consideration that I would deem to be needs, most certainly, but certainly discretionary. And so these are simply two more. So.
And I would say,
my point, Mayor, is that you didn't put it in your budget and you're throwing it to us. I mean, that's kind of
well, if I run for council, it'll be my decision. But I do think that I'm not throwing it to you all there. I tell everyone when they come in and make very emotional pleas for the fact that their offices are understaffed. Many of the people here today make very emotional pleas, and I tell them those 3 guidelines that we've set up over these 8 years, and then I tell them I invite them to please come and make their very best pitch to the Legislative Council, because somebody's going to have to decide between these 17 departments and however many 6 elected offices, which of these are worthy of 6 votes of council. It's a political decision at that point.
and Mr. Chairman, if I may just say to you that.
Councilor Allen?
Oh, you're not done? Okay, I'm
I'm
sorry.
done.
You okay?
Yes, sir.
And I was just going to say, of all of the departments, I'm only aware of 3 departments without administrative support, or finance has part-time administrative support. HR has no administrative support, and then there would be Parks and Rec. But every other department in the government that I'm aware of has that support, just for your information.
Mayor Pro Tem made a request to add Finance Director.
Thank you.
The last department presentation is our Information Technology Department, and Director Tolley will be presenting.
I'll have to apologize up front for the same type of request. We were asked if it was not budget neutral to bring it to council. So I'll begin with my request. First is to approve the budget you do have from me, and that was presented, to approve that as presented with the addition of an application developer position. And the approximate salary is $44,314.04 without benefits. And then I'll briefly go through a couple slides. In 15, we brought some critical needs to council. And in 18, we've had 3 of those we've been able to conclude. And this was a 5-year plan, so we're in year 3. And right now, we are actually the last one. We're go live today with the HR payroll finance system. And then that would leave from 2015 our integrated court jail public safety enterprise system that we've been talking about to get the courts and everything implemented. The critical needs I would say that I have today, number one would be to get that system off the mainframe, the court, jail, public safety, enterprise system. Finish implementing the finance payroll system, because we know how important it is to pay our people correctly and to provide the benefits that they need. We're also helping the CPD, Police Department, Public Safety, with the computer-aided dispatch, helps Sheriff, Marshal's Department. It also includes like the radio upgrades that you heard the Chief talk about. So we're involved with all of those upgrades. Those are critical needs, and I think they're addressed either in my department or other departments. We've been replacing new computers, and you also heard part of that from the Chief, where we replaced 100 new computers this past week. We ordered them for the police cars because the new systems will not run on the old computers they have. So far, since I've been director, we've replaced over 1,000 computers, and we're still ongoing. This year, we've added or replaced another about 400. That puts us at having replaced about half of what we had. We're really on about a 5-year refresh cycle, which is what I would like to be on. Most of our computers have a 5-year warranty, and you really want to try to get a 6th year out of them, so we're real good on, but it's still a critical need, because you hear over and over, I have a program, you heard the police, I have a new program. It's what everyone uses. It's what we need to keep people safe. I need new computers. So I think we've got that covered. What I don't have covered is my application developer, and I'll talk about that a little bit. So you probably remember, and I've talked about this a while, GIS was moved to information technologies, and before that it was a hybrid model where it was kind of everywhere, and today we have a distributed model where we have a core team and then we distribute to the different departments, so that tax assessor, they know what they need with parcels, so it makes sense to have them a GIS person, and y'all have done that. The police department, with the things that they do, need GIS. Engineering, with what they do, need GIS. All of their needs have been addressed, I believe, or maybe they've requested some. But why an application developer? Why for IT? The recommendation was actually made by the committee, the GIS committee, before I actually got here as director. They were already in motion to combine the GIS team. The application developer, they're in charge of not only writing new applications, but they're in charge of the data integrity for the application. And GIS actually touches every aspect of government. It touches the computer-assisted dispatch, it covers the tax parcels, it covers engineering, the roads, the planning, inspections and codes. Every single department uses some aspect, including HR and finance, of the GIS system. We're moving to integrate it to a new modern system, and that requires a better skill set. And wanted to also mention that we've been spending, and you know this, millions of dollars to improve our software inventory, and we need real-time, accurate reporting. Bringing new finance payroll system, CAD program, integrated court jail program systems, and many other systems make the need for report creation more critical. The job has been vetted several years ago by UGA and graded at 19. If you want to maintain system reliability, stability, along with customizations that sometimes even council asks for, we needed someone that's an application developer, and this is an appropriate IT position at the appropriate level, vetted by UGA to do this. And the information technology, again, my request. And then I'll kind of remind council, which you already know, IT is kind of a quiet department. And if you want to see our improvement, you can really see it right here today. We have everybody over here using computers. We have everybody up front using their computers. And the reason they do it, you're using them, it's because they now just work. And that's what you expect. So we're a quiet department. So our improvement comes when you see all the directors carry their computers, where you see technology available throughout the city. You'll see more as we integrate with the school district. So we're kind of a quiet department. All of the staffing that I've requested, and and am requesting has been vetted by either UGA or CSU. We support all the departments, and council and mayor and city manager has asked that we kind of become a smart city. And to be a smart city, we've been working with GMA for the mayor and for the city manager, and all the discussions there include technology, but it includes GIS. GIS equals information. And technology is becoming more of a brain business, and I really need more talented people, because that's really how you move things forward, is we can maintain what we have, but if you want to move forward, and you hear it mentioned over and over, you can call them millennials. I just call them really smart young people. So we kind of need that kind of person, more talent, and this is the position to do that. If it can't be done, and I understand that, then you'll see me again later in FY19 asking again to either reorganize, because I've worked with HR and Finance on a different plan, but I do have these critical needs, and this is right now my most critical position need that I do not have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tolley. And you have done an outstanding job. We've come leaps and bounds since you've been here, so nobody's questioning your ability. You've made great strides, and I appreciate it. One question, you've got approximate salary. I thought you said without benefits.
Yes, sir, without benefits.
Madam Director, will you clarify that?
That's correct. The amount provided in the presentation was without benefits, but the amount to include benefits is $58,489. And that's a grade 19 application developer position. And it's actually an existing position within his department. It's just currently unfunded.
And I'll just say that this is as he has said, Mr. Chairman, a critical position. And I can tell you that if IT is not working, it impacts the operations, not just of this government, but public safety. And when I get the call from the IT director, like I did, I guess it was last week, or week before, where you guys were there until 3:30 or 4 in the morning, you don't sleep well that night. And we can't always say to you what impact that is having across the government, because we don't need to say it, but they're working to get it done to make sure that we move forward. And he has done a tremendous job since he's been IT director, as you know and as you've stated. But if we are going to be a smart city and be progressive and efficient in the way that we do things, we've got to have GIS, and I think you've heard about GIS throughout this budget session, but we've got to have an IT department that makes it happen, and he's doing it, and this is a critical position to that effort.
Okay, any other questions, council? All right, any other questions for Mr. Toll before we move on? Okay. All right, Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been having sidebar around trying to figure this out. I think we all agree we have a big hill to climb here with the add and delete list. I think the consensus is to add the HR. I think the HR has already been added by the Mayor Pro Tem, is that right? The IT request, and the finance request, but fund them at mid-year. Is that clear? I mean, is that?
Finances, okay. I mean, no, I'm sorry, IT has not been added yet.
No, he said add
I'm saying.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
He said
But add those three, HR, finance, and, what was the other one? IT. HR.
Yeah.
But fund them at mid-year.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Stowe. Okay, Finance Director,
On my way.
back to you.
All right, so now we get to the reason why we're here today. What has been provided to council is a revised add-delete list. This list is a slightly different than the list that was sent out on Sunday. I had a couple of phone calls and some emails to make some revisions from council yesterday. So what you have before you is that revised list, not including the items that have been added today. So where we stand right now as far as what's been added today, we're at 58.58 days. That includes the items that were, well, hang on. You said mid-year. I'm sorry, I didn't make that adjustment.
Such a late start. Yep. Finance Director, would it be possible to get an updated list? Would that take long, a few minutes?
Okay.
We can take a break.
Do you want to take a break to get the list?
If, well, depending on how long it's going to take. If,
It won't take but about 5 minutes.
and will that include the proposal from Councilor Allen to move those positions to mid-year?
Everything.
But before I do that, though, I know we had some discussion before the meeting about some other potential changes for some other items on the list, about
Okay.
moving those to,
Let's do that.
do you want to include that as well?
Just hold on for a minute.
Okay.
There are a couple other questions, and then before you start running the updated
Okay.
list. Councilor Davis.
So we are through with all the presentations, and now you're updating the add and delete list?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to put on the delete list the $1 integrated waste fee to delete it out of the budget. I'd also like to put on there the request for funding from the Development Authority, the $150,000 times 3 is $450,000. And you can put that on the delete list, and when we get to it, I'll be glad to give you the reasoning and the logic behind it, unless Councilor Baker, that's appropriate now.
If,
Okay, now that,
yeah, we'll have discussion as we bring up the items anyway.
Thank you.
Is that all, Councilor?
Yes, sir.
he wanted to put on the delete list the $150,000 to the Development Authority, and also put on the delete list removing the $1 integrated waste garbage fee increase. That's the only two that I have.
Councilor Thomas.
Director Alexander and I had just a short conversation, and I don't know if this is what she was referring to, but when we get to the request to add the Recorder's Court reclassifications, that we move those to implementation January 1 also, as we did these others. So that would be one of the, is that what you were talking about?
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Alexander? Yeah. So that would be my request to do that.
And that same request, I believe, is for the probate judge's position as well, to delay implementation.
Delaying implementation of all
Right.
reclasses until October.
till October, thank you.
And then delaying the implementation of the associate judge one until actually January.
Can you come to my business?
Yep.
Well, you got to find money.
That makes his proposal budget neutral is the purpose of those.
Revenue positive.
Well, that's a different question.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess point of order, related to the $1 fee, you'll need to add in $600 and something thousand liability, because you're going to have to come up with money out of the reserve fund to pay for the construction and demolition, expansion, or be shut down by the EPA.
Of the landfill, right.
The other thing you'll need to do is remove the grab-all and I think 2 garbage trucks, or take them out of, 5 garbage trucks, or take them out of reserve as well. So you'll need that. I think that's an extra, what's the grab-all and the 5 garbage trucks?
The amount budgeted for the leasing of the equipment was about $343,000.
Okay, so those will either need to be put on the delete list, or you'll need to find revenue offset, or just have it come out of reserve.
No, I was aware there was those impacts, but you might want to put those as a side note so they'll know what the impact is.
Well, that would be more than 5 minutes. I will say, though,
Right.
whatever we don't get to today, or whatever changes council doesn't actually make today, changes can still be made to the budget on first reading. I know, but I just want to put
Councilor
that out
Davis, you
there.
have a follow-up?
I'm confused.
Well, I'm going to pose a hypothetical question. I guess, Mr. City Manager, I can ask you. You're always the closest. Last year we went through a matter where there was a delayed aspect of collecting revenue for the city. Hypothetically, all these requests that are coming in, if something like that was to happen again, how would it affect all these requests as far as from a timing, as from a, I guess, finance releasing the funds to do exactly what we're talking about? How would that affect the budget and the fund balance?
You mean if the same situation with the tax assessor's office occurs again?
Mm-hmm.
We would probably use the model that we use this year. We'd probably do a tax anticipation note just to be safe, not necessarily use it unless we have to, and we would have to delay capital purchases until after mid-year, when the December 1st collections have been deposited and are available.
What about the hirings?
Well, as I said, we'd use the same model we have used this year. It worked this year, and
what does that mean? You delayed the hirings?
Well,
or you just didn't fill the spots?
we didn't necessarily delay hiring, but our hiring process is automatically delayed because it takes us a while. I mean, it's kind of like, bids or RFPs. When a position becomes vacant, you got to go through a process, and it's probably 90 days before we get a person hired, and that helps, certainly.
And that would be done through your department?
It would be directed through my office.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. What I prefer, Director, if we could, if you want to work on an updated worksheet, there's a lot of items at the top of this worksheet we could go ahead and proceed with to see if we can't get some of these cleared up, and while you're working on the updated sheet, rather than just stop altogether, unless council would rather
Yeah, stop altogether.
break. And well, if council wants to do that, we can take a short break while you're updating the list. But before we do that, let's try to address one thing. Let's see, 18, 19, and 20, we've got 3 proposals. Councilor Garrett, I'll ask your help on this. We've got 3 proposals for the exact same thing, and that was the stipends for the Superior Court judges. We've got one for the full 10,000, one for 6,000, one for 5,000 phased in. So,
5,000, phased in over a few years, so 5,000 this year, 5,000 next year. Which I understand we can't find next year's.
well, I think that's a reasonable. Okay.
And
And the
the-
councilors have discussions about that?
No, I'm saying I'm supporting yours.
Well, and the question, Mr. Chairman, is that shared by other counties in the circuit, or is that just Muskogee?
It is not.
Turn on Councilor Garrett's.
So we are withdrawing.
To answer the city manager's question, it is not shared by the other counties because this is a function that is purely for Muskogee County. The other counties in the circuit are on the automated systems, so they don't physically have their assistants handling the docketing.
Well, we'll have to have a corresponding vote on number 16 as well, because those are the offset. You know, we had 2 positions in the clerk, or the stipend to the judges. So we probably need to address both of those.
I would agree with that.
See, because I don't think we'd create the 2 positions in the clerk's office and fund the stipends to the judges.
Didn't we just say what we did in the clerk's office was budget neutral?
No, that was something, like I said earlier, that was totally,
That's why I need a break, because I need to.
This was the 2 new $86,000 positions.
Right, there are 2 positions included in the budget for the clerk of Superior Court for the transitioning of
That's
the
right.
duties from the Superior Court judicial assistants to the clerk's office. The value of those 2 positions is $86,180. Currently, it's on the delete list because it's included in the budget. Councilor Allen put it on the delete list to delete those 2 positions.
Yeah, they're in.
So what did we do earlier? What was the?
That was to reclassify 2 existing people in her office using existing salary monies within her office.
And will that be on the updated add
Yes.
delete list?
Yes, as being budget neutral.
Okay.
Right. That's right. So we have the clerk, 2 new positions are in the budget
I'm trying to
already.
listen.
And Councilor Allen put them on the delete list because the stipends to the judges were not in the budget, but they have
Right.
since been added. So we just need to decide which way we want to go.
But then I added one.
And, yeah, but that'll be a separate, so, well, it's been proposed to go with the phase-in of over $5,000. And I'm just curious to see if there's any additional comments about that. Okay, Councilor Davis.
I did. I just, I think in the removal of what we just talked about, Councilor Garrett and I think there needs to be clarification on the $5,000. I know from my position, I'm willing to make that decision on the front end, but I cannot make a commitment without seeing next year's budget on the 2-year phase-in, and I just hope that everybody understands that that's my understanding. We're not committing to 2 years on this, on the phase-in of a supplement.
Well, each budget is independent in itself.
It is, but I'm not going to sit here and make that commitment today. I think that's important to express.
That's fine. That's fine. So probably what we need to do is take a vote on 16 on Councilor Allen's motion to delete, and then pick up Councilor Garrett's request, if that's all right with council. And that way we can get those out of the way while she updates her worksheet for us. So I'm going to call to vote item 16, deletion of 2 clerks' positions, $86,180.
Second.
Move approval in a second. We'll just have to, let's see, 1, 2, we'll take a show of hands. All in favor? 1. So, okay, that passes. The next motion will be item 20, $5,000 phase-in of the stipends for Superior Court judges' assistants. Supplements. Sorry. Thank you. I move approval from the Mayor Pro Tem in a second. All in favor? Show your hands with aye. Any opposed? Okay. That motion carries. So we have the 5,000 phase-in place, and we have the 86,000 deletion in place.
So that eliminates 17, 18, 19.
No, not 7.
No, 17 will be addressed separately. Yes, that will take care of 18, 19, 20, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay, we'll take a short break and try to get an updated list for us, and that will help us out here. We've had an awful lot come through this morning.
Will do. 15 minutes. Can we reconvene
Okay.
at 12:30?
That's fine. Short break and see you shortly, 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, we'll resume. Thank everybody for the time and patience, and we'll resume on. See if we can herd everybody in and get rolling. And we'll continue with the add delete list. Before I forget, I want to thank the finance director and her staff for the job they've done helping us work through all of this stuff. I know they've spent night and day for the last several months working. So, finance director, thank you and your staff for all your assistance and work for this.
Yes,
City manager, thank you and the mayor for your work on all of this. And I also want to thank all those that have come before us. It's not easy to come and represent your department, and I don't think there are any frivolous requests. Those get exposed pretty easy with this group. We work for the essence of transparency to work through everything we possibly can. And I know everybody that came because they felt it was in the best interest of their department and for what they do for the citizens to ask for these requests. So I don't fault anybody for doing that. I thank them for their time and coming forward. Obviously, with the financial restrictions we're under, can't approve everything, and I certainly hope none of the departments take it personal because we greatly value everything you do for us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney real quick.
Just one quick matter related to a vote this morning. Could we get a motion to allow Councilor Huff to vote in the affirmative on the Department of Community Affairs resolution? Okay. We got a motion. Oh, and Councilor Woodson. Okay. We'll go ahead and take a vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And if y'all would let the Madam Clerk know how to register your vote, please.
Affirmative.
Let's get on the record.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could I be registered as an affirmative vote? Thank you.
Madam Clerk, can I also be registered as affirmative vote? Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, that does make it unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Attorney. Finance
Yes.
Director.
All right, here we go. So you should have before you the revised add delete list. The first item on the list was added by Councilor Thomas, amended by Councilor Thomas per Councilor Woodson. It's for the tax assessor's office, and this is to add 2 new G14 appraiser positions. The cost is $93,922.
And one quick comment, if I may. I know there's some items on here that might include capital. If a council requests there is an option that we've used in a lot of years to move our capital request out to mid-year, because at that point we can look at our actual collection from property taxes in October and December, and sometimes there's a variance there between the actual and the budget amounts, and there's an overage, and it makes it, you have a little more leeway there to work with your capital at mid-year. So if a counselor would like that, they can make that request as we go forward. Turn on Councilor Davis, please.
Before we vote on this matter, I'm just going to state my position on it. I'm real reluctant. I would not support 4 appraiser positions. I'm very reluctant to support 2. Probably won't do it, and I'll give you my reasoning behind it, is that I think that 1 was asked in all our conversations in the past, and we just implement a new automated system over there, a whole new software system, and we paid Tyler Technologies additional money to come in and supposedly get everything up to speed where it needs to be. And, you know, I think sometimes you need to just kind of see how this is all going to play out and what actually that software is going to do for you from that standpoint. And hopefully it's up to date. And as time goes by, if there becomes a need and we see there's a need, then I think you could be a little more flexible. But where we're at right now, that's the position I'm taking here.
Councilor Thomas?
This originally, the request from the tax assessor's office was for 4, and we pulled this back down to 2 that we think is probably more applicable to the budget situation. So I move that we add 2 new G14 appraiser positions to the tax assessor's office.
Okay, and it's possible with the couple of empty seats, there could be an inconclusive vote. Mr. Attorney, would you give some guidance just in case we have some inconclusive votes?
Well, if we can't get 6 votes on an item today, it'll just be left to be brought back for an official amendment on first reading. And we'll have to do that first meeting in June and take that item up separately.
It can be, but doesn't have to be.
Can be, but doesn't have to be.
If it actually fail as inconclusive, then it can be brought back by motion and second and first reading.
Right, the motion would fail as of today if we didn't have a 6-vote majority.
I just wanted to clarify that as a matter of record. And
Okay.
And my concern, I know all of these are needed positions, but creating new positions out of the fund balance has just always been a concern for me as well, and so it's certainly no reflection on the department. Okay, Councilor Thomas, do we have a motion on the table for item number 1? And we have a second from the Mayor Pro Tem. So we'll just go by show of hands. All in favor of item 1, adding the positions? If you would count, Madam Clerk.
1, 2.
Opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that was inconclusive, but
That's right, subject to being brought back again on first reading.
thank you.
Next item on the list is item number 2, which is added by Councilor Woodson for the tax assessor's office. This is to increase the copier charges cost to the operating budget in the amount of $222,225.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and these were critical charges, I think, for that department. So all in favor of the operating increase for the copier charges, tax assessors, please raise your hand in the affirmative. Okay, that item passes. Thank you, ma'am.
Next item on the list, item number 3, it was added by Councilor Huff. It's for Recorder's Court.
Well, I'm sorry. Councilor Davis has a question.
Mr. Budget Chair, I go back to number 1. I know we're moving pretty fast on all this stuff. You got to be real fast up here. But I did say I would support 1. I'd like to put that out there for vote. I don't know if there's any support, but I'd like to put it out as one new tax assessor or appraiser in the tax assessor's office.
Okay, we have a new motion for item 1 to add one new appraiser. Is that correct, Councilor Davis?
Yes, sir.
And we have a second as well by Councilor Woodson. So I'll call the vote for one new appraiser position then. All in favor? Raise your hand in the affirmative. Okay, opposed? Okay, that item passes. Thank you, Councilor. Next.
Just say.
That's okay.
And the cost of that position was $46,961. $46,961. That includes benefits. So item number, are we on 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Item number 3 was added by Councilor Huff, subsequently amended by the Budget Committee to reclassify the judicial admin technicians and accounting clerks, which are currently G9s and G10s, to those of deputy clerks at a grade of G12 through 14. This is effective December 29th, 2018. The cost is $22,550 in the general fund. There is also a subsequent cost in the old loss fund of $4,320 for these reclassifications.
Okay, and this is part of the reorganization of Recorder's Court since we took a more on-hands position there, and our committee has worked on that diligently, I think.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the Recorder's Court reclasses? Raise your hand affirmative. Okay, that passes. Thank you.
All
Next.
Right. The next item on the agenda is for Recorder's Court as well. It is the wage increases for the part-time judges due to the additional Saturday sessions. This is added by Councilor Huff. The amount that's needed is $7,375.
Thank you. And again, this is part of the reorganization to help those courts run more efficiently so our citizens can get in and get out on more efficient time schedules. We have a motion and approval. Show of hands in favor of the Saturday work. Opposed? Is that unanimous? Thank you. Go ahead, Director.
All right, next item is for the Public Defender's Office. This was added by Councilor Woodson. This is to add one new contract public defender. Actually, items number 5 and 6 are in tandem. If you approve one, you'd have to approve the other. So
we have a motion and a second on items 5 and 6 for the public defender items. I'll call for the vote. Please raise your hand in affirmative in favor of the new positions. And these are new positions, not an expansion of positions.
that's correct. This is a new position,
Okay,
a new contract public defender position.
gotcha. Show of hands in favor, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, opposed?
2.
Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Item number 7 is for the Sheriff's Office. This item was placed on the delete list by Councilor Woodson. This is a 2.5% pay increase for 37 grade 16 positions within the Sheriff's Office. She will subsequently delete one deputy sheriff position. The net impact to fund balance is $3,067.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this, and the sheriff did delete a position to help mitigate this, so I appreciate her work on that. All in favor? Okay, thank you. It passes.
Next item on the list is number 8 for Magistrate Municipal Court. This is to add one part-time deputy clerk G10 position at 20 hours a week. The total cost for this is $14,700.
Okay. And I believe this was a new position?
Yes, it is a
Okay.
new part-time position within the court.
And, okay, thanks. All in favor?
opposed, 3.
Okay, that inconclusive? I believe it was 5-3? Okay. And if, also if a counselor would like to clarify an item to propose either a revenue offset or removing expense from another item to move funds around, that, you're certainly capable of doing that as well. We can take that. Let's see, where are we, Director?
We are on item number 9. This is for probate court. Item number 9 and 10 are actually in tandem. The request is to reclassify the chief deputy clerk G16 to G18, also to reclassify a deputy clerk 2 position to a senior deputy clerk position, which is a G14. The cost of the reclassification is $8,588. There's a subsequent offset where the judge is changing the reclassification effective date for another reclassification that's already included in the budget. That amount is $9,682, which makes this proposal budget neutral.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of proposal for the, I'm sorry, a motion?
Should we take 9 and 10 together?
I move 9 and 10.
Okay, we have a motion for 9 and 10 together. Is that okay, Councilor Allen? Any questions? Okay, then we'll take a vote. Items 9 and 10 on the probate court positions. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Next item on the list is item number 11. This was added by Councilor Woodson for Public Works, and it was to add an operating expense for animal vaccinations. The cost is $36,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the vaccinations for the animals, the animal control. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed?
60.
62.
Okay.
And that goes to the adoption fee. They're going to add a charge to the adoption fee to cover this, right?
I don't know anything about that.
I thought that question was asked when we had the presentation.
Well, they didn't agree with that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't recall that either.
I don't think so either.
But the item has passed, did it not, Madam Clerk?
Yeah, it passed.
Okay.
Anything else?
You can add another item to the list, but I don't know.
Well, I don't think we should impose a fee without having some impact from the board, yeah.
Well, I'd like to refer that.
Yeah, I just made a referral that we advise them that we want them to add it to the fee.
Okay, the advisory board can take a look at that.
Did item 11 pass?
It passed. Next, are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Councilor Davis?
Everybody want the fee to be subsidized?
Let's hear from Councilor Davis, and then we'll get to your question. Thank you, sir.
No, it's kind of along the same subject. I think I had a conversation not long ago with the city manager, and he said that they would be looking into some of those things about trying to find ways to offset some of these costs. I think that this is part of it. In the conversation we talked about, they're going to be, I think they're looking at that and going to bring us a proposal. Councilor Allen, you can add to it. I'll yield.
Mr. City Manager, want to comment?
Well, I was just going to say, let me talk to the Public Works Director and have them talk to the advisory board, and if we need to add fees, let us do it at the first reading, if that's okay with you. I mean, that gives us a chance to have a conversation with the Animal Control Advisory, and then we need to know that by the first Tuesday in June, which is the 5th, I believe.
Yes.
And then if they support, recommend, then we can say to you, and it could be added as revenue on first reading.
That's fine. I'm not sure we expected it. I think the request was just to make sure it gets to the advisory board and let them
Sure.
take it under consideration. I'm not sure how the timelines would work out to get it back that fast. If it does, fine. If not, I
Okay.
think the request was just to have them take a look at it.
Okay, great.
Mr. Budget Chair, if I may, if we're moving on to the next two lines, if I may? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna yield.
And
Mayor Pro
even
Tem?
if they don't add the full cost of vaccination, if they add some cost.
Well, and we hear the observation that you're making, and we will pass that on and see,
Okay,
and then get back with you by first reading.
thank you.
Councilor Allen?
Well, I was going to ask council to vote to ask them to do that, to pass on this, not to pass on the service, but to set up a fee so that it offsets and it's budget neutral for us.
Well, and that's however you want.
I mean, that,
That's what they're coming back with.
that's fine too, if you'd like to do it that way.
well, at this point today, we have an animal control advisory board that is under review as far as the membership makeup. So I'm not sure when we'll have a full board to complement a request like this. But I'll yield to you and let you work on it. You can report back to us.
Yeah, and of course, you know, even if they can't meet, staff can have a telephone conference or call one-on-one, however, and get their feedback. And then we'll know kind of where they stand.
Well, okay, we'll work on it. Thank you.
And we can talk afterwards and however
Okay.
you, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Thomas?
Well, I don't know, maybe this dead horse has been beaten enough, but this is $36,000, and we just, in 3 or 4 positions where we need people to do the business of the city, did not do that, and this $36,000 could have gone a long way to help put in some of those positions that we need. And so if it is offset by a fee to the adoption, I don't have a problem with it. But I do have a problem with spending $36,000 out of a budget that is as tight as this budget is to provide vaccinations. We have not done that to date. And that's my objection, is that I think in this budget we're, you know, we just need to take a look at the entire piece of that.
Well, and I do hear your concerns, and so
Sure.
I know they've already voted, but let us, I'll work with the staff to see what we can come up with, considering the vote has already been taken, unless there's a reconsideration on the vote.
And the difference, one difference is that I saw this as a one-time expenditure, whereas had it gone into a payroll item, it would have been continuous too. So, but Councilor Thomas makes a good point. If they do bring back a recommendation for a fee, then you're going to have and it's in time for a budget, then you'll have $36,000 added back to the budget, or whatever they propose, if they can quantify what that fee is.
Okay.
And so,
Money put back.
right, that's correct. Okay, hopefully we're done with this one. My apologies, Councilor Davis.
Yeah, I wanted to go to the next two items. They kind of go hand in hand. I wanted to ask a question on this. I'm still stuck on this. You know, it's kind of like what we've learned with the patrol cars. I don't understand almost $70,000 for an animal control truck unless it's totally decked out, and I'm not so sure that's what we're looking at here as far as trying to do more enforcement and to keep up with the weekend calls and still utilize the vehicles that we have. I'm not so sure that that's, I remember one time we had a presentation on this. I think y'all remember back when we talked about the chickens and eggs and doing things more urban. and these numbers look familiar, but I'm not sure we're talking about that when it comes to vehicles. Am I missing something there, or can we get by with something less, you know, a Tundra or you know, just a two-wheel truck?
Well, I will say this, and I'm going to let Director Biegler respond, but the amount that you see here is for the truck and the equipment. I mean, if you add 2 new positions, you have to outfit, you have to make sure that they have the equipment they need to do that. We have a list of the equipment that we received from Public Works, and it includes about 64, almost 6,500 in equipment that they need, that the officer would need in order to do their job. But Director Biegler?
That's correct. And those are basic tools, not anything exorbitant. The trucks need to be of a size and enclosed so that, and we have to have traps and cages inside. So there are some requirements that this is kind of the minimum that we can manage with.
So I mean, I'm a truck guy, so I mean, trucks, what's the truck cost?
Do you have that number?
The truck itself is a little bit more than $63,000.
No, I'm talking about a truck, the truck. Yeah, because everything else is being added to it.
A animal control truck is $63,056.
I think you missed the truck, the chassis itself. Am I right? Everything else is everything else being added to it and outfitted?
For the animal control truck?
Right, because I think they're regular Dodge trucks, right?
Yeah, the cab runs about 24, and the chassis runs about 35 because it's conditioned, meaning it has a heating element and a cooling element for the back of it as well.
So the rest of that is to outfit the truck.
Right.
Well, that you know, heating and air, that explains some of it. That's a lot of money. I mean, I put it on here because I really think we need it, and you know, some of the things that I've been trying to focus on, the needs and the requests from citizens. I don't know if it's going to make it, but anyway, it's on the list.
The truck itself also has hydraulics that allows you to put a cage on it and lift it, and not the employee to have to lift. So there's some safety mechanisms involved with the truck as well.
And again, I want to just kind of add to this. I think everybody's probably taken a position on it, but you know, 911's getting a lot of these calls, especially on, I think, on weekends. We don't have anybody covering weekends or at night.
Yes, we do, sir. They're just on call between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. There's not physically an officer assigned to work that shift, but they are on call for emergency priority calls.
Usually what happens is the officer will wind up calling them, and I mean, it's just, you know, trying to take the stress off of our patrol officers and hoping that this would do this and meet the needs of a lot of the concerns that the citizens had. But anyway, I mean, I guess you make an argument for any and every request on the list. So that kind of sums it up. Thank you.
Councilor Thomas?
Ms. Short or Ms. Biegler, either one, these 2 new animal control officers, are they weekend and evening officers?
They will become, yes. If we are awarded those positions, they will be permanent positions working that 10 to 6, which was an original permanent position that was cut when we did the initial budget cuts a few years ago.
Then why can they not use the trucks that are already at the animal control?
They absolutely can. I mean, if push came to shove, it's no different than...
Well, push comes to $140,000.
Yes, ma'am. But they absolutely can. But now that's for the 10 to 6 a.m. shift, because if you remember, they're working from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and that's 3 officers on the street during that time. So there are no other trucks that are going to be available to add them to a regular shift. They would have to go only on the 10 to 6. But the vehicles themselves, because they are considered, they're not, can't just drive it off the lot. You have to get the cab and the chassis, and it's 2 different manufacturers that create these bodies to bring them together to make one truck. Normally it takes about 90 days, 90 to 3 to 4 months, just depending on their order system.
Councilor Davis.
Well, no, Councilor Thomas brings up a point. I'm kind of thinking the same way. If there was a way that somehow you could mitigate that instead of, you know, having an air-conditioned truck or something brought to a scene, but having an officer available to address the calls, meet the needs there, maybe mitigate the problem, maybe get it under control, and then have maybe some support or resources in addition show up. Is that possible to get through? I mean, under the circumstances?
Well, would you want to consider one this year and one next year, maybe?
Yeah, at least one.
That'd be one truck and one officer this year, and then you can consider next year, but, yeah.
Well, I get the sense that what's on the table is not going to make it, so better off getting something better, get something than nothing. I'm okay with that. I think that's the consensus of what I'm hearing from my colleagues. I'll take that recommendation by the city manager.
That's Councilor Allen.
I second the motion.
So there is a motion to move from 2 positions to 1 and from 2 trucks to 1. Is that, Mayor Pro Tem, is that correct? Yes, sir. So the Mayor Pro Tem has amended that particular proposal to go to 1 animal control officer and 1 new truck. Is there an effective date? Is that pushed out, or is that?
Well, and if it's going to take 90 days, you could do it October 1st to get a truck, that is.
You still got to fund the full cost, though.
Well,
of the truck.
Well, I'm saying the animal control officer.
Councilor Allen?
You have to fund the truck, but the animal control officer might start October 1st.
Well, I was thinking if we push it on out to mid-year, it gives you time to order the equipment, interview the process, and then it also saves, it's less impact on the budget.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that?
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, we're trying
that's fine.
Get to a point here where we can.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. I would amend the motion that we move it to mid-year.
So to make sure that I'm clear, for the animal control officer, we are changing that from 2 to 1 new animal control officer G12 position with an effective date of December 29th, 2018. The cost for that is $21,545. Also amending item number 13 to only purchase 1 new truck with equipment. That revised cost is $69,506.
Any other questions as to how it was stated by the Finance Director?
63053.
Okay. Then we'll call for the vote, and that's, and we do, and I do. I mean, we get calls on animals as much as, if not more than anything, we do. It is a difficult situation. Okay. Well, yes, ma'am. Well, they're listed on our sheets as 2 different items anyway, so I think we'll proceed that way. So, Finance Director, let's clear up the first item, please.
Yes, sir. So item number 12, that is to add 1 new animal control officer G12 position with an effective date of December 29, 2018. That cost is $21,545.
Okay. Proposals on the table for that position. All in favor? Okay. Next
item is to add 1 new animal control truck with equipment. That cost is $69,506.
Okay. All right. For the extra truck. We'll call for the vote, please. All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Okay, so the next item on the list is item number 14. It was for the District Attorney's Office, put on there by Councilor Woodson. It's to add one new investigator G16 position. That cost is $51,234.
Second.
Okay.
And I want to make an amendment. That we
Okay.
bring this.
Councilor Woodson?
That the start date starts like the other positions we've been doing to be mid-year. Oh, sorry. That it's effective mid-year like we're doing with all the other positions to be.
Okay. So the revised cost to make that effective December 29, 2018 is $25,617.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we'll call for the vote on the new investigator position. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
6.
Opposed?
No. 2.
Okay, carries.
Next item on the list.
Just a minute, please. We have a comment from Councilor Thomas.
Can you give us, at this point, what the running total is?
Yes, ma'am. With the items that have been approved and the remaining items that are on the list that have not been voted on yet, the current fund balance is 59.66 days. And that's including all the items that are still on the list yet to be approved.
So the 59.6 days is everything we've approved so far through item 14.
And all the other items that have yet.
Then assuming that all of the rest of them are approved as presented on this sheet.
That's correct.
And it's 59.6?
0.66.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, shall move ahead.
Okay. Next item on the list was placed on the list by Councilor Davis. It's for the police department. This request was to add an additional $2,000 to police pay reform for years 7 through 30. This item is also in conjunction with item number 7 on the OLOS sheet. For the general fund, that cost with benefits is $136,512. The OLOS cost is $40,448.
Before we call the vote, Councilor Davis, did you have a comment about the funding method?
Motion to approve.
Councilor Baker, what I'd like to recommend is that we utilize 4 positions out of the 100 officers, as you know, and we stayed within budget, as you know, in the past. We've done that to create the pay reform with the recruitment and retention. I don't, the numbers tell the story when you really look at this, and like I said, over and over, we've been talking about this. We're on the verge of a crisis with leadership in the middle management area, the middle leadership and experience in CPD. That's just the way it is. And, you know, that we've got to do something to create a variance there between, I think we've got the starting pay very competitive from that standpoint, and now moving into year 7, 10. If we don't try to do something to keep those officers there and to reward them when they hit these benchmarks, whether it's 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, this city is going to be facing some serious problems from that standpoint. So this is an attempt to try to do that. It's not solving compression. Let me make that clear. There's so many forces that are out there working against us now that this council's got to do something to try to address this, whether it's with the state making the changes and giving 20+% raises to state patrols and others. You know, you got people being recruited for border patrol, and various entities that are out there making far more than what this government can offer. And now we just found out that even the school district's heading into a policing mode where they're going to create a police department. And I just have to think that that's going to create somewhat of an issue when it comes to retention as well. So we've got to do something to try to address that. If you're ever going to have to go out and try to fill those gaps, it's going to cost a ton of money to try to do that. So this is an effort to try to do that, and I'd appreciate your vote and support on it. If the police chief would like to add to it or comment, I'm fine with that if the council so wishes.
Just want to clarify, Finance Director, about the funding mechanism, that there'll be an offset there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just say that? I'm sorry.
She did. I was just going to have.
Okay.
So what Councilor Davis proposed was to fund but not fill 4 police officer positions. I did want to clarify, Councilor Davis, that was 4 lost funded positions. You said out of the 100. I just want to make sure.
Well, let's just say it would be 4 positions. We took the 16. I don't know where we took the 16 last time. I'm assuming it was
a
lost.
general fund.
General fund, so it would be 4 more out of the general fund.
Okay.
I believe those positions, if I'm not mistaken, have already been accounted for in OLOS. That's what we're told. At least that's my understanding, right?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to work on the list.
Well, it's okay. I don't know if it matters, but I think general fund. I think you guys will figure that out.
Okay.
Okay. So the cost of 4 police officer positions is $188,487. The total cost of the proposal made for FY19 by Councilor Davis is $176,960.
Thank you.
So it
Motion approved.
Madam Clerk, do we have a okay. We have a motion and a second.
Would you give those figures again?
Mm-hmm. So the cost of the, to fund but not fill 4 police officer positions is $188,487. The cost of Councilor Davis's proposal between the lost fund and the general fund is $176,960.
Right, and I think you've already got it laid out here, years 7 through 30 on the proposal. I think everybody got an attachment handout on the adjustment.
Well, you know, come to think of it too, Councilor Davis, now that I'm sort of thinking about what you're presenting, the 4 positions that you're funding but not filling are already in the budget. So essentially, not filling those 4 positions would make this request budget neutral, so there'd be no impact to the fund balance. So I could actually remove the cost listed here because the 4 positions are already funded in the budget.
Right.
That's right. I'm going to let you figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, from my understanding, that was his intention.
That's even better. That's what I hear.
That was his intention all along, from my understanding, from the conversations I had with him, which is why I was okay with him.
So what we're doing is,
An amount that you have.
right, I'm adding the $176,960 back to reserves.
Yeah.
That's right, only because you took it out, so.
Right.
But now that he has an offset, now that he has an
Oh,
offset, it would wash out, it would go back in.
That's correct.
And so where does that,
In terms of days?
are you calculating it as you go?
Uh-huh. Right now, with that change and assuming everything else on the list that we've yet to discuss, we're at 60.08 days.
So that's what you call multitasking. She's doing it all.
Okay. We had a motion and, I'm sorry.
So the motion would be to approve changing would be to approve.
That's the point I'm trying to make, to you.
Pay reform in the police department for years 7 through 30 by adding an additional $2,000 to each tier for years 7 through 30.
All right.
With no impact to the budget.
And with no impact. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next item on the list is for the Clerk of Superior Court. This item was put on the add-delete list by Councilor Woodson. Item number 16, council has already voted on. That was to delete 2 new deputy clerk positions, so that I've already have that recorded. So the next item is item number 17, which is for the Clerk of Superior Court. This was to add 1 new deputy clerk G12 position for a cost of $43,090.
Mid-year. We're going mid-year.
Well, we would need a counselor to make that request, because I believe right now it's funded for the full year.
That's correct.
I'll make that adjustment for mid-year.
Okay.
Any other comments on that position? Okay, we'll call.
So the cost?
You want to, go ahead, Madam Director, clear that up.
So the cost is $21,545. That would be to add 1 new deputy clerk G12 position for the Clerk of Superior Court effective December 29th, 2018.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? Okay, inconclusive. Thank you.
Okay. So items number 18 and 19 were withdrawn by council. In items number 20, council has already voted on. That was to add 7 $5,000 supplements for the judicial assistants. So moving on to item number 21, which is for the added to the agenda by Councilor Woodson for the Clerk of Council. This is to reclassify the Deputy Clerk of Council from a G14 to G16. Do you believe this? The amount is $4,273, and that has a July 1 effective date.
Wanted a speech from the deputy.
Are we modifying the effective date on this before you vote? Leave it effective July 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we'll vote on item 21 for the reclass of the clerk. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Glenn? Wait, he's still processing. Okay, thank you.
You got that? All opposed? Contingent.
Give it to us later.
Approval contingent upon speech. Okay. Go ahead, Director.
All right, moving on. That was passed, item number 21. Item number 22 is for the Clerk of Superior Court. This was a budget neutral reclassification for the Senior Deputy Clerks G14A to G14C, and the offset was to reduce part-time wages, both in the amount of $4,168.
And so that's neutral?
It's budget neutral.
Okay. All right.
It's budget neutral.
Okay. All in favor?
We're on 22.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
That passed. Okay. So the next item is item number 23, and that was request from the Finance Department placed on the list by Councilor Pugh. This is to add the cost for reclassifying a part-time admin assistant to a full-time admin coordinator with the reclassification effective December 29, 2018. The cost is $11,005.
Okay. Any comments? Okay. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Did that pass? Okay. Sorry, I was looking down.
You make a speech?
Next, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Next item on the list is item number 24 is to add the operating expense for audit services of $5,000 to the finance department's budget, and we're going to reduce contingency by $5,000, making it budget neutral.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Next item on the list, I don't have a number on your sheet, but it's item number 25. It's for the Human Resources Department, placed on the list by Councilor Pugh. This is to add a new admin assistant G12 position effective December 29, 2018 to Human Resources.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
62. Okay. That passes. Next item on the list is item number 26. It was added by Councilor Allen. It's for the Information or IT Department, and this is to fund an application developer G19 position effective December 29, 2018.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Opposed? Need to recall that one? Okay. You with us, Glenn? Okay. All in favor? This is, yes, this is the IT request for a new position. All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, opposed?
Opposed? 4, 4, and 4.
Okay, thank you. That's
Okay.
inconclusive.
Item number 27, last item in the general fund is not there. Sorry, that's
Where's
notes
that?
for me. So we're done with the general fund. The next fund is right now with the items that have been voted on in the general fund, and considering all the other items left in the old loss fund, we're at 60.26 days. So the first item in the old loss fund, council has already recorded a yes vote for. That was for the recorder's court reclassifications. The next item, item number 2, it actually is in conjunction with an item on the third list, which is item number 3 on the other funds list. And this is to reclassify the landfill operator G12 to a correctional detail officer PS12. So this is to add the supplement for that new, for that reclassified position. So if you approve the supplement, then you should also approve the reclassification.
But was not the reclassification neutral itself?
It was neutral.
It was
neutral in the,
and that's item 3 on
it's
the...
item 3 on the last sheet that you have.
Go other funds, not yet. Get on the, go ahead and look. Before. Okay. All right. Are we squared? Everybody understand where we are? The position was neutral, but there was, the supplement was, so it's item 3 on the last sheet. And then
item number 2 on the old loss sheet.
And item number 2 on the O lost. All right. Motion and a second from Councilor Huff.
On the old loss sheet, we're on number 2, and on the last sheet.
What happened to 1?
You voted for number 1 already.
How do we do, that one pass?
That one passed. Number 1 passed.
In other words, yes.
Okay, sorry.
Item 2 on the O lost works in conjunction with item 3 on the other funds on the last page. It's a budget neutral position, but then there was the supplement that kicked in, which is what's on the first, which is on item 2 under the O lost. because we had that discussion at length about how much the sworn supplement was, whether it was 3,100, 3,900, that's what this item is.
Yes, it's changed, the position in the Integrated Waste Fund is changing from a general government position to a public safety position, which will require an OLOS supplement. So,
this person is a certified officer.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's funded out of the OLOS fund. The supplement is, but the reclassification is in the Integrated Waste Fund.
Integrated waste, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Separate fund altogether, yeah, enterprise fund, so. Okay, any other questions? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand, please. Okay.
Next item on the list is item number 3. This was placed on the list by Councilor Garrett. It's for fire and EMS. And this is to add 64 additional sets of protective equipment for the fire department at a cost of $153,600.
Can we do that? Half an hour, half?
Well,
No,
you can move.
not for the equipment. The equipment cost would remain the same, whether you bought it in July or January.
Yeah, I mean, you could move it to mid-year, but as a one-time capital expense, just to see. But it would be this, that's right, it would still cost the same amount of money, you're right.
So just do it.
What's in the water?
Okay, any other questions?
Oh,
Okay.
then.
All in favor of the fire protective equipment? Okay, and I'm sorry, 5-minute break before we go to the next item.
Sure. That was withdrawn by Councilor Barnes. So we'll go down to item number 6. It was also placed on the list by Councilor Barnes. It's for the police department. It's to add the cost to make improvements at the public safety building. The amount is $200,000.
Councilor Thomas.
Is this $200,000 coming out of the 70% public safety, or is it coming out of infrastructure?
70% public safety.
Why ain't it coming out of infrastructure?
Well, the infrastructure money is already allocated. There is no reserve, so to speak, to allocate for infrastructure. I mean, there is reserves, but those are for projects that have already been designated. The facilities money allocated in FY19 for infrastructure was only about $500,000, and I think the priority right now with Public Works is to repair roofs. I think the cost to repair a roof is about $400,000, and that's the. So this item, these improvements to the public safety building would need its own, really need its own funding source. So there's no reserves that we could pull from the infrastructure side, because that money has already been allocated to projects.
And I still don't understand why this is coming out of the OLOS to begin with. Why it isn't coming out of facilities maintenance. No other department has to pay this kind of money if they have changes made in their department, or if they have improvements, or they have upgrades. I don't understand why the police department and the OLOS is having to bear this expense. Why the public safety is having to bear this expense.
Well, I'll let Director Bigler sort of respond to that in more detail, but I do know that other departments have paid for improvements to their offices. You know, there's a finite amount of money that's allocated to facilities maintenance as a whole that's separate from the OLOS funding. And so once facility maintenance has distributed or paid for all that it can cover, sometimes departments do cover the cost of making some improvements within their office, whether it be the purchasing of carpet or that sort of thing. So,
well, this, as I understand, when this was presented to us by the chief, this is just regular, normal, everyday kind of repairs. It's not moving a wall or, you know, that sort of thing. And I think it's very inappropriate for it to come out of the public safety side of the OLOS.
We routinely limit the work we do in any facility. If there is a legitimate repair, it gets taken care of if there are funds available. And I will say that, you know, but if it's something like carpet or something that, you know, has got a nice price tag on it, and we have a long list of repairs that need to be made, regardless of whether it's a public safety or general government building, we take care of those first. The facilities money that we receive each year goes for roofs, HVAC systems, and on the whole, in the last 3 years, almost every bit of that facilities money is used for repairs on public safety buildings. Right now, we're replacing the roof on the North Precinct building. We have replaced the HVAC at MCP, and so we make repairs based on how bad the need is and how bad the condition of the building is. We don't restrict it to public safety, or to just general government. In this particular case, I haven't spoken to the chief yet, but the only thing that they have requested of us is carpet and painting and some wall repair, which are aesthetics as opposed to HVAC, electrical systems, hot water, et cetera, et cetera. We receive a set amount in the budget for public safety each year for maintenance and repair, and I'm not sure exactly how much that is. We always exceed that amount and move money from general fund to public safety to keep up the repairs that need to take place.
And one thing, Councilor Thomas, that we could do, I mean, as opposed to it coming out of the public safety OLAW 70% money, we could add it as an item to the general fund, and it come out of the general fund balance.
Well, the OLOS money, the public safety's portion of the OLOS money was to be generally for salary and equipment for those people who were hired under the OLOS banner. It was not for regular day-to-day facilities improvement. We buy equipment for our public safety employees. We hire additional public safety employees out of this. We don't buy carpet for the police department out of this. And I understand, I've been in the police headquarters, I've been back there, I've seen the carpet, and I understand all of those reasons why you would want to replace that carpet. And I want to replace it too. I just am not convinced that the public safety 70% portion of the OLOS is where that should come from.
So we could, like I said, as far as the impact to fund balance, it would be the same. We would just move it from page 2 to page 1.
Well,
let me get a comment from the city manager. Go ahead.
Let me just, you know, and I went back and had a brief conversation with the chief, and because I really didn't know what building improvements were needed.
I don't remember us really quantifying what we're dealing with here, so go ahead.
And so he advised that they need carpet, painting, and wall repair. And of course, I'm trying to remember the square footage of that building. And then I understand your concern, Councilor Thomas. So what I would recommend is that you consider $100,000 and do it out of general fund. And because I mean, I don't have any idea the square footage of the building, but if it's carpet, painting, and wall repair, a lot of the painting can be done internally. It's the carpet and the wall repair. It's the carpet that I don't know what it'll cost. And $100,000 is a guesstimate to replace carpet. And so I don't know where the $200,000 figure came from for carpet painting and wall repair. But I understand Councilor Thomas's point about OLAWs. And so my recommendation to you would be $100,000 out of general fund. And how would that impact the fund balance?
Well, I mean, if we reduce it from 200,000 to 100,000, that would be a positive impact to the fund balance as a whole. So that would change the days to 60.73 days.
To what?
Okay, just a second. Councilor Garrett?
I was just going to say, if we were going to take that off, I was going to amend, well, Councilor Barnes made the request, so it may have to be a new request, but the 5-year lease for 20 pursuit vehicles, I was going to increase that to 30 vehicles.
Okay.
What was,
well, yeah, let's take the.
What was the Mayor Pro Tem's motion?
To reduce the cost to $100,000.
It was to follow the city manager's recommendation.
You know,
Councilor Garrett, we'll have to take that as a separate issue.
I don't have a problem at all with doing the work. I just have a problem with where we're going to pay for it.
Sure.
And I would fully support moving it to the general fund.
Yeah, and as I said, you know, painting and wall repair, I think that's a lot. I think we should probably be able to do. Our people paint. I say our people, but
we can have a paint party.
and so we could look at the carpet and then whatever else with $100,000.
So the motion is for $100,000 in repairs from the general fund, moving it from the lost on this particular item. Any other, Mayor Pro Tem, any other questions?
No.
Okay, all in favor? Okay.
Oh. Just a second. All right, so that changed the fund balance from 60.26 days to 60.49 days. And so there was item number 7, which council has already approved. Just want to make sure that on item number 7 that we understand that that's for FY19 and going forward as far as the change to the reform. There's no retroactive pay included in this number.
I think that's correct. Yes, ma'am.
So item number 8 was put on the add delete list by Councilor Woodson and Councilor Huff. This was to add 17 pursuit vehicles with build out. This was based on the cost provided by the chief. That total is $680,748. They don't. I mean, they're two independent requests.
We're getting that. Councilor Davis has the floor.
Yeah, I think.
Because you added that 5-year listing thing. Okay.
You want to take it off, or do you want me to talk about it, or?
Talk about it first.
Let me give a speech?
Yes.
And you're just the man for that. So we're all listening.
Thank you. I appreciate the confidence. No, we've been kind of working through this, Councilor Woodson, and I think we've all learned some things along the way, but what we found out is we can, instead of doing the 17 at full cost of what we thought, we can go to a leasing program, which would be a 5-year leasing program, and do it through GMA. The question is And I think it's okay. I think this is pretty much identical to fire and EMS and where they lease their vehicles, but I think the important thing is getting the car, but then the build-out. And it's my understanding now, it's the build-out to specs to whatever our current CPD officers are using today, nothing different, everything that's required or needed, however they want to package them, would now be a total on their lease program, vehicle plus build-out would be roughly $176,000
That was for 20.
for 20 cars. So as you can see, that's a much better deal.
So you're asking me to delete mine?
You can withdraw.
Yeah.
Okay, I withdraw 15 and make a motion.
Well, look, I think we're all working together here, but it's a council decision. A lot of this stuff was last minute, and if another counselor has something, I know that we just saved some money in the
Woodson, how about let's get your withdrawal on the record, please, ma'am?
Okay. Okay, I want to go ahead and withdraw item 8 and make a motion for approval for item 9.
Second. Okay, motion.
Well,
go ahead.
I think Councilor Garrett had an amendment to 9. You wanted to change that from 20 to 30?
We've cut out 200,000 from here, and they wanted 30, well, it's not want, they needed 30 vehicles, and cutting out the 200,000 over here, and then we moved the 100,000 from general fund and the public safety building improvements. That more than covers if we added another 10 vehicles and made for a total of 30 vehicles. Could you give us I know we'd just be adding 50%, but just the cost for everybody?
Well, it would be $262,314 for 30 for a 5-year lease. So this amount would be recurring for the next 5 years for 30 police vehicles.
Well, and I would just remind you, and you probably remember, that I know the chief indicated 30, and we went to fleet, and they pointed out 17 that needed to be replaced that were on the F list. And so I know you're talking about 20, so that would be 3 more than what fleet has identified on the F list.
I think Councilor Barnes is pretty passionate about this. We just lost a couple cars not long ago, I believe, in Councilor Allen over in your district, I believe, in a pursuit. But I'm also being told, which I'm concerned, City Manager, could you maybe look into expediting some of these things? I don't know what the scheduling's like, but I'm hearing that cars that maybe were ordered last year they're not out on the street yet. We just need to try to make sure we get these vehicles to the officers.
Well, and certainly we'll do that, and I know the chief has been good about, buying vehicles early. He's done that before, where he was able to locate where the vehicles were, and we were able to get it done. So we'll certainly consult with the chief, and if we can make it happen, we will.
Okay, appreciate that, Mr. City Manager.
Councilor Garrett, if it's okay, I would like to address these items as they are listed, and if you would like to add an additional request as number 10, then I would like to take it that way, if that's okay with council. Okay, we'll call the vote on, Madam, this item 9.
Yes, sir.
Director.
So item 9 would be to.
I'll second it. We got.
Okay, Councilor Huff.
Yeah, quick question. If we are going to have a 9 and a 10, would it not be best just to take 9 off the table and go with 10, since we'll vote on 20 and then we're going to go back and vote on 30?
Well, I think there's some different feelings about, and since it's listed on the record as item 9,
okay,
we'll just vote, and then if there's a consensus to make an additional request for number 10, then we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay. So item number 9 on the add delete list is to pursue a 5-year GMA lease for 20 pursuit vehicles with the leasing amount, annual lease amount being $174,876.
Okay, any other discussion?
The annual amount?
It's an annual amount for the next 5 years.
This is under the old lost, Councilor Allen, if you'd like the Finance Director to clarify that. Funding.
Yes, it is under the old lost public safety, the 70%. Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll call the vote for item 9. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you.
That passed. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. It passed. Okay. So, I'm
Councilor Garrett, excuse me, please.
So then my motion would be to, I guess, add a 10th item, which would be an additional lease for 10 vehicles.
And the annual cost of that? No, would be $87,438. $38.
Okay, let's get a second.
Okay, any questions or comments to the motion?
I made the motion, yeah.
Okay, we have not had a second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for an additional increase in the vehicles for item 10. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, fine.
Okay. That leaves us with a general fund balance of 61.91 days. Moving over to the other funds. 61.91. Yes, ma'am. So moving over to the other funds, the first item on the list was added by Mayor Pro Tem Pugh. It's for transportation planning. This is a grant fund, and it was to reclassify the administrative secretary G10 to administrative assistant G12, and it is budget neutral as it's a grant.
Okay, motion for item 1 on the other funds list.
It's from the grant. It's from grant funded. Well, it's transportation planning. It's really a recurring grant. It's really one of our more permanent. It's a permanent grant, essentially.
And I guess you
all in favor? Okay, opposed? Thank you.
Next item on the list is item number 2, added by Councilor Woodson. It's for Public Works. This is already included in the budget. In the budget for the Integrated Waste Fund, we have, we put in the budget to lease 6 garbage trucks. Public Works requested that we change one of those garbage trucks to 2 grab-alls. It is budget neutral from a budget perspective.
Okay. Motion and second on item 2. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, Director.
Yes, sir. Item number 3 was the reclassification, and I'm not sure whether or not we approved this already. Okay. It was in conjunction with that old law supplement, and I know we approved the supplement, so.
So this is approved?
I just didn't have it marked as a yes. So moving on to item number 4, was placed on the list by Councilor Barnes. This was for Public Works in the paving fund to reclassify a contracting inspector G14 to a GIS technology supervisor G16. It is budget neutral as the director has presented this to come out of contingency. It's $5,544, but it is budget neutral.
Okay. Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay. Item number 5 is also in the paving fund for Public Works, placed on the list by Councilor Barnes. It's a reclassification of a maintenance worker 1 G7 position to a GIS technician 2 G15. The cost is $14,841, and that is also coming out of contingency.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Item number 6 is placed on the list by Mayor Pro Tem Pugh. It is also for Public Works. It's coming out of the Stormwater Fund. It's to reclassify a maintenance worker G7 to a GIS technician G14. The cost is $12,508. I have reviewed the request submitted by Public Works as far as the operating budget reductions, and I do think that they can absorb this reclassification. So it's budget neutral.
All right, got a motion second on a budget neutral for item 6. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay.
So the last item on the list was placed on the list today by Councilor Davis is for the Economic Development Fund, and this would be to reduce the Development Authority's allocation for the robotics initiative, and the subsequent offset is to increase the city's contingency. The amount is $150,000.
Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Budget Chair. Look, I want to make no mistake. I think I've supported every economic development request that's come to this council, and I do support the initiative that's being proposed. So with that being said, I don't think it's from a standpoint of rallying the troops and getting behind everybody and all that. I think it's more of a funding matter here, and that's where my concern is. Each council member has to look at it differently, but what I've learned through this and doing some due diligence is that, you know, right now we've got 0.5 mils that goes into a pot. It's a contingency. It's not counted. It's not counted. Well, let me call it a reserve, an economic fund reserve. It's split in half. 0.25 mils goes to the Economic Development Authority. That's the money we give them every year, 1.2, 1.3 million, somewhere in there. And then the other 2.5 goes to the city, which what I call jobs assurance money. In other words, if you show me jobs today, I'll write you a check. We started this, and I was one of the advocates, along with the mayor and others. We started this many years back because we realized when NCR and Blue Cross Blue Shield came to town, we realized that we're in a global competitive market, we're going to have to buy jobs. And using the reserves to buy these jobs or to bring these jobs to, using the city's reserves to bring jobs to Columbus, realizing that as the Great Recession hit, as time moved on, we didn't have much investment to, if we get an opportunity to get another 300, 500, 1,000 jobs, that we could utilize that money. That money in that pot has since grown to the point where I think it's a sizable amount. We still are servicing NCR and Blue Cross and Blue Shield out of the city's part of the economic development money. But then we also give the Development Authority to do their, whatever they do over there to support development in our community. And just kind of trying to understand this, and looking at the financial statement, trying to understand what exactly is available, it just occurs to me that there is a lot of money available, whether it's an operating fund, whether it's the amount of money that's reoccurring from the city, whether it's a lease or a rental agreement that's bringing in revenue, whether it's interest that's producing revenue, whether it's a clawback that's going to produce revenue. It just struck me that, you know, the funding's available. It's just a matter which pot you want to take it out of. And I'm kind of more, I'm from Missouri, the show me state. Don't tell me, show me. And I think from this standpoint that you know, it's okay to support the Development Authority, and they have the resources, but I think what they need to do is to utilize their funds, to put up their funds, and to get this project that they brought to us, to get it going and establish it, give us updates, show us what's going on, show us how it's performing, show us how it's producing. And I know that this council, if there's going to be ever a need that we start producing jobs out of this initiative, which that's what everybody's saying, that the fund on the city for jobs assurance, it's going to be there and we can utilize it. And we have not opened that door yet to start funding other initiatives. I think that money, I believe that money on the city side should be used for jobs. In other words, you show me jobs, I write you a check today. And I don't think it should be used for, some call it development, some call it speculative purposes. We don't know how all this is going to pan out, but I think everybody's behind the initiative. So that's all. I'm just asking that the Development Authority utilize their funding for a year, and then we can relook at this in a year, take a good look at it. If we think it's moving in the right direction and decisions are being made at top levels, then we can come back and support it. We always have that opportunity, but there's plenty of funding on both sides. And I just think that, that they have the ability to step up and do it, at least with this clawback that's coming back, that they have the opportunity to do it for a year. So I think that's the right way to handle it, and I've just come to grips with that. So that's why I put it on the list, is to take off, and that we continue to get updates from the Development Authority. They can fund it out of their funds, and then we can continue to monitor it to see the productivity. I don't think it's an issue of the city not being behind this initiative, and there's a lot of players involved here. And at the end of the day, I think it's very wise to see how it's all prudent, to see how it's all going to play out.
Councilor Thomas?
Ms. Alexander, as I recall, and help me with this, when the folks from the Development Authority were here, I asked if this was an additional $150,000, and I believe he said no, they were just seeking permission to spend it in this way. Do I remember that correctly?
I can't really recall, Councilor Thomas, exactly. I do believe you posed a very similar question, and I don't know if his response was clear, but there is no additional $150,000 that's being added to the budget. It's just where the $150,000 is coming from. So as opposed to us giving the Development Authority $150,000, we'll just hold that money in our reserves. So there's no budget impact for us.
Well, I think we are facing a time crunch. I have spoken with a couple of folks who are very knowledgeable about the robotics initiative and about what's going on with the Department of the Army about making decisions about where the robotics initiative is going to wind up. One of the people that I talked to is retired Brigadier General Peter Jones. And General Jones told me that he thinks that decision is going to be made in about 1.5 years from the federal government level. And that Fort Benning right now is one of the major players to get that initiative here, but there are other installations across the country that are also saying, no, us, give it to us. And that this position, this funding would be just almost crucial to hiring someone to represent Columbus and Fort Benning with the Department of the Army. They would not be doing other kinds of things, but would be focusing on the robotics question. I asked him, when this first came to us, they said, let's do it as an employee. And one of the questions that, one of the things that General Jones said was, you'll get more bang for your buck with a consultant. But that decision, I think, would be the Development Authority's decision, whether they hire a consultant or whatever. But General Jones, who deals with this regularly, has dealt with it regularly, and is in contact with the folks at the Department of the Army, said you're looking at about 1.5 years. And these other bases have people who are dedicated to doing this. And that if Columbus wants to be successful in bringing not only the robotics initiative to Fort Benning, but all of the accompanying economic development, it would do us well to have a person dedicated to that, working with the Department of the Army. And if this is not, if we are not being asked for an additional $150,000 that they're going to use what they already have to pay this, we would be penny wise and pound foolish not to do it.
Well, this 150 is in addition to the 0.25 mils that they already receive. So they receive about $1.2 million from millage, from tax monies, and this 150 would be in addition to that.
And would that come from the city's 0.25?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Well, from what General Jones said to me, that $150,000, we just almost have to do it in order to be in the running, even in the running for this. And he said, I told him that the original request was for 3 years, and he said he thinks they're going to make their decision within 1.5 years, and it wouldn't be a 3-year commitment, probably. But I just feel very strongly that we need to make sure that the Development Authority has what they need to get. And he said there was a good chance of our getting the robotics initiative here, but you need somebody concentrating on it on a regular basis. So I guess I'm not sure what we are being asked to do. We are being asked originally, let me ask this. Originally, we were asked to move 150 from the city's side of the ledger to the Development Authority side of the ledger.
That's already included in the budget.
Already included in the budget.
That's correct.
And what Councilor Davis is saying, I think, is they already have enough money on their side of the budget. They don't need us to move this money. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Because I think, well, I'm not going to speak for Councilor Davis, but I think his point is they could still create the position and do what you're asking within their own abilities. And then if they got caught in a bind on another deal, to come back for us for additional funding. But Councilor Davis is...
And that's what, I'm sorry, that's what Mr. Caricature was saying the other day, is that sometimes the timing on them coming back to us for money to pay for new jobs is a quick turnaround, but yes, we can turn around quickly, I think.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say, what Judy just said.
Well, let me just say, there's a lot that's happened, and I respect everybody's position. There's a lot that's happened since this request has come before us. Matter of fact, I think it's important to understand that if you're a military person, you understand where these decisions are being made. The Pentagon and the DOD, General Mathis has already let the cat out of the bag. Cat's out of the bag. If you've read the recent articles, General Mathis has already stated and drawn out the plan of what's going to happen. They do mention Fort Benning, and they also talk about the Marines. Robotics has been around for a while, and they're still working on it. But these decisions are already being made. They're already made. It's not like we're in the running or in the hunt, but The point is that we're there to support them. We already give that funding to the Development Authority to do exactly that. We're here in reserve. We're here. We're the troops. We're the infantry right behind them. And I think it's just wise with taxpayers' dollars to get the updates and watch how the productivity happens or the progress happens. If they land some jobs, we're there with the money for them to support them. That's what the fund for the city, I've always looked at it. It's kind of like whether you view the OLOST or the lost and how you view that. I view this reserve as funds available for jobs to create, well, to buy jobs, basically. That's what it is. I call it jobs assurance. You show me jobs, I write you a check. And I just, you know, like I said, I'm from Missouri, the show me state. You know, don't tell me, show me.
Well, I mean, if council decided at some point in the future to for us to give the $150,000 to the Development Authority, you could do so by approving a resolution. I could, in the next budget amendment, adjust the budget for that purpose, but it would require an additional approval from council at some point at a later date if it's not done as a part of the budget proposed by the mayor.
Okay, so where we are now, it is in the budget, and Councilor Davis has an item on the list to remove it out of the budget and put it back in the city's part of the Economic Development Fund to be used at a later time.
For jobs, right? Or in support, that's right.
And
what's the motion?
Well, the motion is simply asking the Development Authority to utilize their funds and move forward with the initiative as soon as possible. We're here in support. We're supporting you. If you need more funding as you progress down the way, we're here. We're ready to listen. We're ready to support you in that. Come back, give us some updates periodically, quarterly. Let us know what's going on. Let us know the progress. And if you need more funding, come to us and present it. I think that's just the appropriate way to use the city's fund, which, again, I always thought was for, I believe it's for jobs and jobs assurance.
Well, last thing I'd just add to this, as far as the commentary that we're having, is that we have reserves. I mean, what we budget to add to, what we budget for reserves every fiscal year is for that fiscal year. So as of right now, since we started collecting the 0.25 mills, the city has on its books about 1.8 million in reserves.
And we found out that you can, if we get somebody that comes in the next 4 to 6 months with 500 jobs, we're going to need that money.
True. It's there, though. We have existing reserves.
And the $0.25 that the Development Authority gets now, it has grown.
Yes.
I mean, at one point it was $980 or something, and now it's about 1.2 per. So they've accumulated a couple of $100,000 per year over and above what we used to fund them.
Right.
So I understand Councilor Davis's point. I thought it was well made.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So the item that's on the list is to reduce the Development Authority's allocation for the robotics initiative and to increase the reserves or contingency for the city for FY19.
And again, that does not mean they would not get the money at some point, as I understand, Councilor.
Right, they could come back at a later date.
At this time, we would still have to have a motion in a second.
That's correct, because we're adjusting the budget as it was proposed by the mayor.
Well, I'll make the motion.
And we've got a motion and a second. All right. So we'll vote, and a positive vote is for Councilor Davis's amendment to pull the $150,000 back and put it inside the city's economic fund.
Yes.
For a later date.
Correct.
Okay. All in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Opposed?
3.
Okay. That motion does not carry. Thank you.
All right, that is all the items that we had on the add delete list, Mr. Budget Chair. Again, as we, as I stated previously.
I apologize, Councilor Woodson has a comment.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to make a request that we add approximately $25,000 to our budget to be used in our portion as a private-public funding with Uptown. We're having a lot of events, a lot of people coming into our city, and they're needing assistance with their marketing, and I wanted to earmark it towards that.
So the request by Councilor Woodson is to add a $25,000 appropriation to Uptown Columbus.
And Mayor Pro Tem has seconded that. And I'm not sure the funding's.
Our current appropriation is zero. I think it was phased out of the budget in FY17.
Yeah, they don't get nothing.
FY18.
But that would not be out of the Economic Development Fund. That's out of.
That's out of the general fund.
General fund.
Well, and I will say, and I don't mean to throw anything in it, but, you know, the Liberty District is trying to start things too. And so you probably, once you do for one, you're going to hear from someone else. So you just need to keep that in mind. They did have one successful.
As soon as the authority comes back with what they need to do, we'll be addressing that. I'm just waiting to see what the authority is going to do. We turned over the Liberty Theater to them so that they can bring either the developer that was interested or another developer. And once they come up with something, I'll be the first champion and cheerleaders to jump on and request funding. But we haven't heard anything yet from them.
Mayor Pro Tem.
And there's a difference. We can see what Uptown brings into Columbus. And I know Phoenix City participates with them. And we get a lot from Uptown.
Okay, any other comments? Madam Clerk, do we have a motion and a second? All right, we have a motion and Finance Director, would you repeat the request?
So the motion is to add to the general fund an appropriation, to Uptown Columbus in the amount of $25,000.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3.
Opposed?
Councilor Davis.
Just let's call the vote. All in favor of the proposal to an additional $25,000 funding for Uptown? All in favor?
1, 2, 3.
Opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that's inconclusive, but will not move forward.
All right, so
They don't have no money.
We don't give them anything.
Finance Director, go ahead, please, ma'am.
yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So that is the end of our add delete list. We end with a fund balance total of 61.91 days for the general fund. The next meeting that we'll have will be at first reading. It will be June 5th at, my computer has frozen up on me. It'll be June 5th. That's the first reading of the budget ordinance. Of course, any additional changes that council would like to make, you can do so on June 5th. The advertisement of the budget will go into the paper next Tuesday. We'll submit that to the ledger by this Thursday. So we'll also advertise a notice for the taxpayers' Bill of Rights. The first public hearing for the taxpayer Bill of Rights will also be June 5th at 9 a.m. And then the second hearing will be a part of the proclamation meeting, which is also June 5th at 6 p.m.
That's a council meeting, too.
Yes, it's a regular council meeting and a proclamation meeting, June 5th.
Okay, Councilor Thomas?
Ms. Alexander, I have had a couple of people ask me if they wanted to speak on items in the budget, and that is what that taxpayer Bill of Rights meeting is for, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That they can come and address
Well, they
or
can
ask questions or?
They can come and address the budget as it relates to the millage increase, which means that, which we don't have a millage increase, it's just the way that we have to advertise it. If there are adjustments to the property tax revenue as a whole, we have to show what we would roll the millage rate back to collect the same amount of money as we collected last year. So that is what that public hearing is about.
So if somebody from the general public wanted to speak about an item that either is or is not on the budget or in this, they would come to that first.
They would come to that first meeting.
First reading, which will be that night, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That 6 o'clock
At
meeting.
6 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ma'am?
All right. I don't have anything else, Mr. Budget Chair.
I don't know. Okay, again, we have a work session at 9 o'clock.
Yes, there is a work session scheduled for May 29th at 9 a.m.
Okay. All right. Madam Clerks, thank y'all for y'all's help. Again, Finance Director, Mayor, City Manager, and y'all staff for the great work you've done. Councilors, thanks for your time and patience.
Thank you.
Hang on, we have the Mayor Pro Tem with a closing comment.
I know our time with our new budget chair is short, but I want to thank our new budget chair for the time he spent with this budget, because it really went well.
Oh. That was my pleasure. It was as easy as the people I've got to work with. Y'all made it happen, so I thank you, even Glenn.